The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Other attorneys say they'll go to trial. They won't. banksandjones.com with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, and we have a monster show coming up. What really happened and went down with Josh Heupel at Oklahoma? Now, Caleb has referenced it on several different occasions. I'll be honest with you. I don't completely 110% understand. So we're going to visit with John E. Hoover that covers Oklahoma and did at the time when Josh Heupel was fired by the University of Oklahoma, fired by the Sooners after leading them to a national championship as a quarterback. Was he just a failure? Was his offense a joke? No, there's a backstory there. So we're going to get into it today. Also, Jacob Warren will join us, former Tennessee tight end. We look forward to that. We'll talk to him about Nico. I think he's off the charts. His numbers aren't off the charts yet. Missed a couple of throws over the weekend, particularly on some outside throws. But we'll talk to Jacob about his progression. I'll still stand by what I said. That is, when Tennessee and Georgia play, Tennessee will have the better quarterback because that's at the end of the season. Also, we will get to this day in Tennessee sports history. Bank on it. Vols will finish in the top 3 in the SEC, brought to you by Commercial Bank. Our SEC power ratings coming up, stat of the day as well. And a last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, as we'll take a look at the recap. And I'll tell you who I now think is in my elite group. And it's grown by one. But we'll get into that a little bit later. My elite group are those that can actually win the national championship. So, Caleb, it's grown by one. I bet you could guess who it would be. But I tell you what, we're going to discuss, and it might be a team a lot of our fans and listeners don't like. So go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. Caleb, how are you, sir?
I am good, but who also is a Titans fan and saw Will Levis make another horrendously terrible decision yesterday to cost us a game? We should be 2-0 right now, but for the fact that Will Levis is our quarterback and he's good for two really good. He's Brett Favre without the arm strength. He's just the reckless Brett Favre, just the reckless side.
I haven't seen enough elite throws to put him in that category.
No, I'm saying he's only the reckless side of Brett Favre. He's Brett Favre without the elite throws.
Okay, without the elite throws. I mean, it's not just arm strength, although that's what Brett Favre will always be known for. You're absolutely right. Okay, so I'm not going to brag, but I picked 70-3. What was the final score? 71-0. Let's take a quick look back and give out some awards, some Torchbearer Awards, top performers. We do that right now, and it's brought to you by, of course, Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. 4 downs is right now, I think. Where is it? There it is.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
All right, here we go. We'll hand out the Torchbearer Awards, or as I once called him, the Torch Dude. And John Wilkerson waited for a break to verbally chide me. As we were broadcasting from Circle Park back in the day. But it's a torchbearer. It goes to the for those that don't know, it's the guy who holds the torch in the middle of Circle Park. And that award goes to the top overall student, not just student athlete, but we've kind of changed it up a little bit because we like to give out awards. It's what we do. So, Cooper Mace, lead us into this as you lead the Vols each and every play.
Cooper Mace here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop. What down?
Coop here. First down.
All right, Caleb. Your thoughts. Who stands out as a torchbearer for the Vols after a 71-0 shellacking? And I'll let you break this up as you wish because we're also going to get to thoughts on just the game in general. But if you want to start with one of your torchbearers, let's go right now. I'm interested to see who wins that coveted award.
Yes, and we give out 5 each week. They're basically our versions of helmet stickers, and I wish we could give out 100 because it's...
Wait a second. I graduated from the University of Tennessee. The torchbearer is a lot bigger than a dad blame helmet sticker that such a new coach would like to put out. No. Our award is better. It's a lot better.
By the way, I also have to point out that I've only heard dat blame used as a word among people from East Tennessee. I first heard it from Johnny Majors. Is that just y'all are so religious y'all couldn't bring yourself to say GD? So you say dat blame instead.
I didn't. Gosh darn it! I thought was the substitute for that. But dad blame it. I don't think if that is a correlation, but maybe it is. Dad blame it. I don't know where that comes from. Okay.
Right.
Coop, what down is it?
Coop here. First down.
What do you got?
All right, number 5, I got Chris Brazel II caught the touchdown pass from Nico Iamaleava. I mean, it was that you could have given it to all the receivers. They all looked fine. None of them put up a lot of stats because of the flow of the game, but Chris Brazel caught the touchdown pass when it was still somewhat of a game, so he gets it, even though that was the easiest touchdown grab to make.
Yep, fair enough. All right, second down.
Cooper Mace here. Second down.
What do you got?
For the second straight week in a row, a walk-on defensive back is a torchbearer. Will Brooks was part of a secondary that shut down the one strong part of Kent State, which is their passing attack. And he also had a tackle for a loss. So he was the best player in the secondary over the weekend.
You know what else he did that was incredibly deft, D-E-F-T?
What is that?
In the post game, he's sitting there with Jeremiah T. Lander, who is a young guy who could potentially say something stupid with the Oklahoma game coming up. And they were asked about that. And Will Brooks essentially just took over and said, "Oh, I'll handle that one." And it was open to both people. And he gave the most Josh Heupel answer of Josh Heupel answer. So we'll get into, does going back to Oklahoma motivate Tennessee players throughout the week, because he got fired as the offensive coordinator there. But that might have been his best move on Saturday night, just to make sure, not that Jeremiah T. Lander would say anything, but just to make sure that the narrative stays on track of it's just the next game, even though nobody believes that. All right?
No, nobody believes that at all. So number 3 is, and I wish I could have given it to both of them, but guys, part of the Torchbearer Awards is, did you make a play when the play mattered? And yes, technically, theoretically, none of these plays mattered, but technically the plays did matter when it was in the first quarter, technically. So Dylan Sampson got my torchbearer over Deshaun Bishop. Deshaun Bishop did have 7 carries for 120 yards, which is incredible. Dylan Sampson, 13 for 101. Sampson, 4 touchdowns. Bishop, 2. They both deserve shout-outs, but Sampson did the bulk of his work when it was the first quarter, and it was still technically a game.
Well, and I don't even say this jokingly. I mean, there are some good high school running backs, and I'm not taking anything away from Deshaun Bishop, who I had concerns about before the season, or Dylan Sampson on what they did. But Caleb, now you and I were a little bit down, significantly down on the running back position before, and there's still one last box to check. And that's pass pro against a really good defense. And I don't know that Oklahoma's a really good defense, but they're going to provide multiple looks. We did talk to Cooper Mays, brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning, 50 years in East Tennessee yesterday. And he said they're crushing it in pass pro. Said the term is scratch where it itches, which I'd never heard before. and that they have now a really good feel for it. The way he described it, and you can go back and watch the video, it's a little bit instinctual. I always thought that pass pro was just learned by looking at the set. I don't want to go too long here, but he said that they're both doing a great job in pass pro, and scratch where it itches is my new saying. Caleb, we're on what down?
Well, we are on 4th down, but I still got 2 more to give it to.
No, we're on 3rd down, and then we're going to double up for 4th down.
Tennessee Center.
Well, no, I've already named 3.
3rd down.
Okay, so we got Dylan Sampson and who else so far?
We've named Chris Brazel, Will Brooks, and Dylan Sampson.
Will Brooks and Dylan Sampson. Okay.
Number 2, sticking with the secondary, because that was another strength of Tennessee, was Jermon McCoy. I mean, Dave, you are right. He looks like an NFL cornerback, and man, your secondary looks so much better when you got a cornerback that can take away one side of the field. And Tennessee's looking like they have a cornerback that can do that this year.
Doesn't it? Hit the like and subscribe button and put on the comments who you think should be a torch bearer, as I remind you that we're represented by Banks and Jones. We'll get to the top torch bearer in 30 seconds. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
Cooper Mays here. 2nd down.
All right, what do you got for I hit the wrong one.
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
4th down. All right.
Man, I'd love a down reset to give me 2nd down when it's 4th down. A six play down.
Oh boy, that's like Colorado plus. All right, really who's the top torch bearer?
The top torch bearer is of this game, Javonte Spraggins. Now, you could have made it interchangeable with Cooper Mays or Javonte Spraggins, but Spraggins is the primary specific run blocker in this offense, and Tennessee was, I mean, it was Kent State, so I can't I know I got to make this relative, but it looked like they were blocking air out there, and that was Javonte Spraggins more than anybody else.
So your top 4, Dylan Sampson, Chris Brazel, Jermod McCoy, Javonte Spraggins, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I'm going to put that on our poll question. You vote.
No, wait. Sorry. No. It's Will Brooks, Dylan Sampson, Jermon McCoy, Javonte Spraggins.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna go Sampson, Chris, Jermod McCoy, and Javonte Spraggins. No offense to Will Brooks, but he got his love last week, and we only have room for 4. So, Caleb, you obviously didn't mention some guy named Nico. I'm curious as to why. Is he a given in your mind already in just the 3rd game of the season against an incredibly weak opponent? Or did you not judge him as one of the top players in that game for the Vols? Because I did.
I mean, he only had 170 yards passing and a touchdown. And the reason it's hard, and by the way, that's not to hold it against him. I don't think there were many chances for him to be great, because then the chances he would have had, Dylan Sampson was turning a 10-yard gain into a 50-yard touchdown. And so it was just so easy to move the ball that I don't think Nico had really any chance of being what fans wanted him to be. So because of that, yeah, he didn't make the list. Because quite honestly, Dave, I think you and I could have started a quarterback out there and won that game on Saturday.
Well, I wouldn't go quite that far, but I would put it this way. Rick Clausen could put up 40 points.
Yes. Oh, that's so mean. That's so
right. Rick Clausen. What in the world?
Larry Scott and Butch Jones offense could put up 40 points.
Probably. And let's get to Tennessee's ranking. Hit that like and subscribe button. I haven't even asked yet, and vote on our poll question that is on board. No offense to Will Brooks, but we had to leave him off because YouTube just limits you in the number of poll question opportunities that you have. So you got Dylan Sampson, Chris Brazel, Jermod McCoy, Javontes Spraggins on the YouTube page. Vote, and I would greatly appreciate it. Dylan says Nico is the guy that lit the torch, so he can't be a torch bearer. Okay, I like that. I thought I will say this. It's going to be hard with him being the focal point of this offense not to be a torchbearer unless he has a dud game. And I don't think that happens because you look back at Hendon Hooker and the very few mistakes he had, he could have been a torchbearer almost every week. There were a couple of times when they got defended pretty well. But for the most part, he could be a torchbearer, what would you say, 11 out of 12 weeks if you wanted to make an argument. So I like the fact that you're going a little off schedule and not just taking the easy way out. But Dylan Sampson is running away with this over Chris Brazel, who is going to be an NFL player as well. Okay? Jermod McCoy is going to be an NFL player as well. Javontes Spraggins, do you agree, is going to be an NFL player as well, right?
Yes, exactly. I totally agree with you on all those.
And I tell you what, I was watching a lot of NFL over the weekend, and I see a lot of smaller backs. It filters up. So high school starts with these spread offenses about 20 years ago, because I know that because I got a lot of high school buddies that are coaches. I got a lot of buddies that are high school coaches. And it filters up. So it starts to go to college, and it's going to start to go to the NFL. So the days of Ezekiel Elliott and Saquon Barkley are going to be over. They're going to want Dylan Sampson type. So I think he's an NFL player too. Am I getting ahead of myself, Caleb?
No, I mean, I totally understand that, and I agree. I think it was hard to show in this game because of how bad Kent State was. But I do think I'm with you. Those are all NFL guys. And I mean, Sampson is going to be an NFL running back. I have to say it. I'm eating a little crow. He does look like Alvin Kamara now, who, by the way, had a lot of fun against Dave's Cowboys on Sunday. But
what the H to that? What the H? Who's higher on the Vols right now? Is it the national media or odds makers? Because we got to talk report card first. Oh, report card. Let's knock it out. All right, what do we got?
All right, so in their grades, and guys, again, keep in mind, this is like when you have when I said it in my post, it's a senior year honors student taking third grade courses. That's like what they're doing when they're playing Kent State. That's what you're grading on right now. Quarterback gets a B. I didn't think there was anything spectacular, and it's largely because Jake Merklinger was 2 of 5 for 17 yards. Nico wasn't amazing. Gaston Moore was the best of the group. Running back gets an A+. Receivers get an A, tight ends get an A, and offensive line gets an A-. Do you object to anything from offense?
It's hard for me not to say everybody gets an A when you throw down 71 points. But I get it. You're being purposefully picky, and I dig that. All right.
Yeah.
So the defense?
Defensive line gets an A. Didn't generate a lot of sacks, but they didn't have the chance. And James Pierce keeps bringing pressure. Just can't get that actual sack to close the deal. But they were perfect in the game. Linebackers get a B-.
I want to say something about James Pierce. He's requiring extra blocking. It is opening. I noticed that particularly. I've noticed it throughout the year, but in particular on Saturday, people come into games thinking James Pierce isn't going to beat us.
That's exactly what they're doing. It reminds me. Do you remember John Henderson's senior year after he won the Outland Trophy his junior year, and he drew double teams every single week? And there were questions of why was John Henderson not having the same year?
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. So linebackers is the worst group of the bunch. They actually get a B-, and that's because Kent State, which is a really bad rushing team, had too many good runs. I mean, J.D. Sherrod, the quarterback, had 56 yards on 7 carries. Jordan Lowe getting 32 yards on 7 carries. Averaging over 4 yards a carry was a bad look for the Kent State rushing attack. I mean, how bad they are and how good Tennessee's defensive front is. And I got to put the onus on the linebackers for that to a certain degree.
I can roll with that. Special teams.
Well, also, here's my crazy part. Secondary, A+. That's right, A+.
Oh!
Yes. And special teams, punting, not applicable because Tennessee didn't punt. Place kickers, Max Gilbert made all field goals and extra points. Josh Tuberville nailed an onside kick. Never had spotted Kent State past the 25. A+ for place kicking. And return game for A. Tennessee had a bunch of great returns with Boo Carter, Jamal McCoy, and Squirrel White all getting in on the action.
I'm friends with Josh Heupel's dad. Funny story. And I was texting Josh's dad, and I thought I was going to say, hey, nice onside kick, just, as a kudos to your son. And I accidentally texted the younger Heupel, and and I didn't know I was. And he goes, thanks. And I said, hey, got a second? Because there's something else I wanted to ask him about. And I call, and I'm like, oh, man. I feel like such a stupid old idiot. I didn't mean to call you, Josh. He goes, no problem. All right. I said, but it was a nice onside kick. All right, here we go. What the H?
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
What the H is kind of simple. And it's why wasn't Vegas and the national media higher at the beginning of the season? I think the answer is Nico, which turns us to this. Who is higher on the Vols? Is it the national media or is it Vegas? Caleb, make an argument for either or, because I'm going to go ahead and tell you, I think it's the national media. I think rankings are stupid. I've said this before. I believe that the AB voters, about half of them, don't really take their time. I believe that the coaches poll, Tennessee is not going to get respect from them because coaches don't like the onside kick and they're running up the score. And that you can make an argument that they're right. It's brought to you by Medicare Misty. Caleb, which of these two, the national media or the odds makers, are higher on Tennessee? And there's been a big movement in that line that I want you to update us on.
Yeah, Dave, you are totally wrong. It's absolutely Vegas is higher on Tennessee, and Tennessee fans should be happy that Vegas is higher on them than the national media. National media still doesn't have Tennessee in the top 5. They have Tennessee at number 6, and the coaches will have Tennessee at number 7. But Tennessee has moved from a 5-point underdog at Oklahoma the Saturday before last to a 7.5-point favorite at Oklahoma. That's an insane line movement. By the way, I get Oklahoma struggled against Houston. That moved the line to about 2.5 Tennessee last week. It's now moved to 7.5. And here's the crazy part. You can say, well, Oklahoma struggled against Tulane. Oklahoma covered against Tulane. I missed that. I thought Tulane would cover. Technically, Oklahoma covered. They were favored by 13. They won by 15. So they're moving this just in Tennessee's direction, if you really look at it. And I think that Vegas is seeing what we're seeing with Nico. They have some people connected to the program. And here's why I say they're higher than national media. We're going to talk about our SEC power rankings a little bit later, but Ole Miss is ranked ahead of Tennessee in the AP poll at number 5. Dave, I guarantee you if Tennessee played Ole Miss right now on a neutral field, Vegas would favor Tennessee. Guarantee you they'd favor Tennessee over Ole Miss.
Okay. Let me tell you why Caleb Calhoun's missing the mark here. I laid the foundation just a moment ago with what I said about the voting. Okay, but I'm going to finish my winning debate here in 30 seconds. Is What the H, brought to you by Medicare Misty. What the H? Well, I often say that when it comes to Medicare coverage, when I help others like my parents. So Medicare Misty licensed in over 40 states. Here's why the national media is actually higher on the Vols than Vegas.
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
All right, Caleb, there's 62 AP voters, 62 dudes that don't know any more about football than you and me. So you're basing it off that, and I get it. But what did we hear last week when Tennessee had an impressive win? And there's only so much that you could actually do against a team like Kent State to improve your standing. And 90-0 wouldn't have really changed any of my thoughts on Tennessee or Kent State. However, what did we hear last week when Tennessee played at North Carolina State? We heard from Reese Davis. We heard Nick Saban's going to be a tough team to beat in the SEC by anyone. That's national media now. We heard from Josh Pate, who will join us later in the week, as will Cole Kubelik, who is very high on Tennessee. So without looking, Caleb, I'm hearing from national media left and right that are very high on the Vols. You're basing it just on 62 dudes in the AP poll. So the buzz I get from national media is Tennessee's a true contender. I think the AP poll, like I've said before, thinks that you should climb your way up. That's so stupid. It should be an elevator if you play that well.
So you are saying, so that's a fair point where you're going. You're saying the AP poll is, I shouldn't use the AP poll as a wet blanket for all national media because there's other national media that's not in the AP poll.
Agreed, because I think half would just slide them up. Listen, if you started the AP poll today, like there was no preseason poll, and you had 3 weeks to look at every team, where would you put Tennessee right this moment?
Well, I already have that up. I would have them, I think I put them at like number 5, like right at number 5. I would put them right around there. And I would obviously be extremely high on them. And so then Dave, I gotta push back.
Then back at you with their argument. They're not as high as you are.
Well, I gotta push back though a little bit. And yeah, this is why I said Vegas is higher. Josh Pate and Reese Davis, the people we were talking about, Dave, I'm willing to bet that Josh Pate and Reese Davis would favor Ole Miss if they played Tennessee tomorrow. I would not. I think Vegas, I wouldn't, but I don't think Vegas would. I'm pretty certain Vegas would favor Tennessee. And I'm going to tell you this right now. Alabama's number 4 right now. I'm just going to tell you this. Tennessee's going to be favored against Alabama. Tennessee's number 6, Alabama's number 4. The Vols are going to be favored against Alabama when that game happens, provided they do what they're supposed to do against Oklahoma.
No, I tend to think they will be. Are the Vols high enough in the polls? Speaking of high, brought to you by Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. That's Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. Hooked for 10% off. Where could Tennessee be after this week with the potential matchups is one of the things that I want to get into later in the week. But if I started an AP poll, because I don't think there should be a preseason AP poll, you're just totally guessing. It's absolutely silly in my mind. Which teams would you have above them if they started an AP poll after 3 weeks?
If they started an AP poll after 3 weeks, I'd have Texas above them right now, even though I think Tennessee is going to be better than Texas. I'd have Texas above them. I'd still have Georgia above them. I know they struggle with Kentucky, but that win over Clemson has to count for something still. I would have USC above them only because that win over LSU, again, is a quality win. And Dave, you are going to explode in anger, but no, well, because there's two other schools Tennessee's in a tier with. Alabama's 1, but you got to put Missouri in there now too because of that win over Boston College.
Yeah,
I know
Eli,
it's gonna
not Eli.
I know it's gonna make you angry, but like that win over Boston College has to count.
Can't stand that dude. I see Jacob Warren is down there. He's already shaking his head. We're gonna get to him. Jacob Warren. His appearance brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. We'll tell you more about that as Jacob Warren, former Vol, will join us each and every Monday. We are super excited about that relationship as it will continue to grow. So hang tight for 2 minutes. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This is Off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford & Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
With our brand new location on Emory Road, Eye Care Optical is bringing East Tennessee's best eye care to your neighborhood. Doctors Johnston and Combs offer unmatched expertise and care without a trip to Knoxville. Eye Care Optical, now in Powell.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Way to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, hit that like and subscribe button. Be sure and turn the notifications on because you never know when we'll have a special guest, and a new addition to the weekly lineup will be Jacob Warren, former Tennessee tight end. And Jacob, how are you, sir?
What's up? Can you hear me? I'm wearing some new headphones today, so hopefully they work just fine.
You're tight. I got you
Awesome.
loud and clear. Jacob's
Perfect.
appearance brought to you by our friends at Peak IV Hydration, specializing in hydration wellness. They provide tailored IV treatments designed to boost athletic performance, support recovery, and enhance overall wealth. They have a location in South Knoxville and Sevier County, so check them out. I will put the link in the message board. And Jacob, I saw you shaking your head when we were talking about Eli Drinkwitz. I think it just goes across the board that nobody outside of his own family likes him.
Okay. All right. I wasn't going to go that far. You know what I mean? But obviously, myself and the teams I was on have had history with him. And, to hear him say that, they're right up there with us is not far off, Caleb. Honestly, I think you're pretty accurate. You're pretty right there. Unfortunately, just because I don't want to admit it. But yeah, they're a good team.
All right. Now, I wanted to set you up with a talk about Nico. But first, I want to give you kudos because we were visiting with you on a Monday, okay? And Jacob doesn't take credit for a lot of stuff. He's that kind of guy. And he said, I think I helped a little bit, but I don't want to take credit. In the interview, is basically paraphrasing. And then later that day, Alec Eberle, Tennessee's tight ends coach, in his press conference, said, I got to give a shout out. I don't know if you saw this. I wrote about it. Yeah, he said, I got to give a shout out to Jay. I mean, he really helped set the tone of that group. And that's pretty strong. Nobody asked about you or any other former player, but he offered that up. So what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome, right? I think, like you said, I might not take credit for a lot of things or whatever, but I think it is good to see. It's good to hear. And I don't expect him to say something like that, but I'm happy that he feels that way. And I agree. I think looking back at, kind of just a lot of the things we did and, I watch the games now, and I watch some of the tight ends, kind of their form or their technique or their, you love the hat. Thank you. Appreciate it. I see the chat. Thank you, Matt. You know what I'm saying? But it's just cool, man. I feel like that's all you can really ask for in this game, I guess, and life, really. I don't want to get too deep, but, we all want to have our impact. We all want to be able to make our mark. And it's cool to hear that even after I'm gone, what I'm saying, they're still thinking about the things that I was able to do as a player and still kind of trying to implement that in the game. And, I made my impact and left my legacy there.
Okay, so I'm going to put this on the poll question, and just for fun, it's on our YouTube page. And the question is this: Nico has blank my expectations. Met, exceeded, almost met. Okay, so somebody's got really high expectations because they're already voted for almost met. Let me just ask you, Jacob Warren, what do you think of Nico's play through 3 games this season as opposed to what you expected?
Yeah, so I'll start by saying I think he's met my expectation. I played with him in the bowl last year. I played with him all last season. Practice and different things like that. I've been around him, and I knew he would be ready to take over the responsibility of being the guy in the spotlight and be the guy that's touching the ball every single play. And I for sure would never doubted that he was ready to do that. The kid is leading the team to these huge victories, right? Like, I think that you could say anybody could have done that against Chattanooga. Anybody could have done that against Kent State, whatever. And sure, you might be true. You might be right? I don't think you're right, but you might be. But I think he's come in, man, and he's given this offense and this team exactly what it needs, man. And that's just a guy to continue to make plays in the backfield and continue to, lead this team, right? I think this team goes, regardless of who's leading it, but you just have to have a solid leader. You have to have a solid talent back there to be able to make some of these plays that he's making. And obviously, it's all about SEC play. Right when I joined in, I hear you guys talking about the SEC, and this conference is getting harder. It's not easy, and it never is easy, and it's not supposed to be easy. But I'm excited to see his progression and just see him working into this role that he's built for himself.
Hey, Caleb, I know you want to jump in there, but I got one thing. I got to apologize. I said former Tennessee player. It's VFL. Okay. VFL. So even though Jarek Dooley made that up, he stole it from Fred White so we can use it because Fred's a friend of the program. So we'll do that. Hit like and subscribe. I want to ask you one question before we dig into it a little bit more. And I don't want to disparage any former player, but I'm just curious about this. If Joe Milton's arm strength was a 10, because they talked about this on the broadcast, that Nico also has a very strong arm. If Joe Milton's a 10, what's Nico?
So Joe Milton is, 6'6", 240, 230, 235 pounds, right? Nico's probably 6'6", what does it say? It's 220, 215.
Yeah.
Something like that, right? So I think, Joe's obviously much bigger, right? Stronger, more power from his hips and his legs. But you watch that. I saw the comment. You watched that ball to Brazel, right down the right sideline, and I'm sitting right there. We're in the family section. I'm sitting right there behind where he catches that ball in the end zone. And that ball, that ball's in the air for a while. He threw that ball from left hash, middle field, on his own 45, and that ball drops right on the right. Upright on the goal line. That's a crazy throw. People don't really, people don't really acknowledge that or realize how far of a throw that really is. And you watch Joe Milton do it, and he does it with such ease and such grace that, everybody wants to talk about that. But Nico's making a lot of these big throws too. And if Joe's a 10, Nico, I don't want to overshoot it, but Nico's, he's probably an 8. He's probably, he's 8.5. He's up there with him, man. And I think once he continues to grow and get stronger and bigger, you'll just continue to see, what he's able to do with his arm.
He's an elite arm, Caleb. I think you would agree with that. Go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, so Jacob, I am one of those people who maybe had insane expectations for Nico Iamaleava. I said he was if you could create a quarterback in a lab to run this system, I feel like
that's who you'd create. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
and so because of that, I gotta nitpick a little bit here.
Yeah.
Should Tennessee fans, and maybe you can assuage their concerns, be a little concerned that his numbers were relatively pedestrian last week, but also missed an out route for the second straight week in a row overthrew it. He did throw a curl route that was telegraphed that could have been intercepted. He did have an interception last week. The first one, I don't blame him for the second one. And he overshot a couple of passes last week. Are we nitpicking, or are these things that can be somewhat concerns going down the road?
I think it depends on what you're looking at. So you mentioned kind of just the production, right? I kind of was looking at it, and I think he had 16 attempts, and he was 10 for 16. I think he had 170 something yards, maybe, which sure is a little bit low. But I mean, you look at the run game, right? Ran the ball 55 times for over 450 yards or something stupid like that. Like, we ran the ball like crazy last game, and so whenever you got guys that are just whenever you can do that, I guess you rely less on the pass game. So numbers are kind of weird for me, but I agree. I think it's something a young quarterback has to just work through. And when you have those extremely high expectations that just Tennessee puts on all of their quarterbacks and just everybody, it's going to be tough to meet that. And I don't blame you, man. I don't blame you for having high expectations. I don't blame you for looking at that and being critical, because that's truly the only way that people get better, and that you see progress is that you see him now next game maybe completing that out route on time, or maybe not telegraphing that comeback and finding a different spot or whatever it may be, right? So whether he's whether he's listening or not, right? I think just talking about it, I think he's probably aware of all those mistakes he's making too. And I guess all we can do is wait and see how much he progresses week to week.
I want to dive more into that deep ball because it was beautiful, and the deep ball in general. And it's brought to you by Peak IV Hydration. They bring you Jacob Warren. It'll change your life. And they've got the patches that you can order online as well that I just put in our message board, their website. And I had one of those energy patches.
Mm-hmm.
And forget about caffeine. It was sustained energy all day. And you've had the IV as well. It's instant hydration, Jacob.
Yeah, I can speak from my own experience, right? It's something that's the most important thing to an athlete for sure is hydration and is taking care of your body. And, that's one thing people might not think about a whole lot. You think about your muscles, you think about all this other stuff, but you got to take care of your hydration. And that's really what fuels your body, man. So whether you're an athlete or whether you're just an active person, or you just, maybe feeling a little bit, groggy or a little bit slow, whatever it may be, definitely a good option to go and get get a patch or get the IV, get the fluids, whatever it may be.
Yeah, for groggy or a little bit slow. That's called for those that need that daily. That's called the 50 plus patch in IV. Wait, you're over 50. I'm a little groggy every day. All right,
I hold my tongue. I won't say nothing on that.
Oh, by the way, Aaron Murray said that I was like an old fart, but that's okay. Because, he didn't win a championship at Georgia or anything. All right, Caleb.
Jacob, he didn't say that. He actually said Dave looks young, and he was very respectful on the show last week. Dave didn't have to be savage like that.
Spread lies, man. What's up with you?
Yeah, right? So wrong. So, Jacob, to nitpick further, but I do want to talk about that deep ball to Chris Brazzell. I mean, that is the created and allowed to run the offense. I mean, it was the most beautifully thrown. You're right, perfect deep ball. I mean, I don't even think Chris Brazzell had to work that hard to catch it. And so, how often when we see deep balls that he may have missed on, like the interception against NC State, or when I thought he slightly overthrew Squirrel White. How often is that? Do we not see that it may be on the receiver for running the wrong route or taking too long to break on the route or decide what they're going to do?
For sure. And I've talked about this, time and time again, because again, quarterbacks, those are my guys, right? So I'm gonna defend them regardless, right? You have to, right? Those are the people with the ball. Like, this is our offense. This is our team, man. So, I think honestly, a lot of it, if you really broke down the film and looked at it, you could see you might be on the wide receiver, it might be on the O-line, right? That has to do a lot with it. If there's a protection breakdown or something, and he just a little bit off schedule or a little bit off balance, those footballs can come out a little bit different, right? And people don't really think it it matters that much, right? They just see an overthrown ball and they just go, oh man, he overthrew it and it got intercepted, whatever. And I'm not saying that that's what you're saying. I think that it does play a big part. It does play a big factor as far as timing wise with the wide receivers, especially in this offense. The way that these routes are run, the way this offense is timed up, you know what I mean, with the protection, with the depth of the routes, with all those things. I don't know about the specifics of, the picks that he has thrown, but could have been a chance that it was a wide receiver timing thing, or maybe just his depth, or maybe, whatever you want to call it. End of the day, you know what I mean? It's an interception, it's a turnover. One of the maxims is to protect the ball, right? Protect our lead. And that's something that the team has to go out there and try to do every single day, regardless of who it is. If it's the quarterback, if it's the wide receivers, if it's the offensive line, it doesn't matter.
Along those lines, I want to clear up one thing, because on the interception that looked like an errant throwing to Brew McCoy over the middle 2 games ago against NC State, that I thought that was just an errant throw, which happens. The best quarterbacks have errant throws. But then Caleb, help me remember, who suggested that Brew might have throttled down a little bit.
Someone told you off the record. I'm not sure who it was.
Okay, well, then I don't want to mention him. Did you see any of that, or do you think that was just an errant throw? What was your take on that particular interception?
We're not playing the blame game, but I think I can see a pretty visual change of body language of Brew coming across the middle, right? And that is, obviously there was a guy there to intercept the ball, right? So therefore, if there's a guy there to intercept the ball, that means there probably would have been a guy there to hit Brew if he's catching that ball, if that makes sense, right? So a lot of times, when you have these routes and you make the wrong decision, sometimes you just have to live with it, right? And so if you end up rolling that post into that safety and he throws that ball and you're the one that rolled the post into the safety, you're the one that also has to go up and get that ball, protect that throw, right? That's how I look at it as a tight end, as a player that plays in the middle of the field, right? If I make that decision, I have to commit to it and I might take that hit. Now, you also say, okay, quarterback, whoever it is, if you see that wide receiver heading in the middle of the field, you got to feel that safety. You got to either protect him and throw the ball somewhere else, or you got to get rid of that ball and not put it in danger, right? But in Nico's head, right, he sees Brew, who he trusts, who he, believes in to go make any catch. He sees him run across the field. He makes, throws the ball, whatever it was, like, and it ended up being picked up, right? So, I think, again, you don't want to blame the receiver. You don't want to blame the quarterback. But, I think without any blame, it just has to be cleaner. It either has to be a different angle on the post, or he has to not post it, or the quarterback just has to not let it go to protect him.
All right, good stuff, Jacob. Can you hang with us for a little bit? There's something else I wanted to get you to comment on. I told you just 10 minutes, but I'm going to fib a little bit, because I want to talk to Jacob about the onside kick in particular, what he thought about that. Hang tight for 1 minute off the Hook Sports.
It looks a little fuzzy to you? You may want to consider LASIK vision correction from the Campbell Cunningham Laser Center. Now with 2 Sevierville locations to serve you, East Tennessee's best eye care is more convenient than ever.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones. Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
All right, I want to get into the onside kick and the sportsmanship or lack thereof it, and we'll do that right now. But first, I have no idea what this is going to do when I bring up four people, but or four screens. But we're going to try that right now because I want to remind you that you need to be a member. Oh, there it is. It's just a lot more Jacob. You need to be a member of Hooker's Corner. Hooker's Corner is your opportunity to win weekly prizes and also a monthly grand prize. It'll be a pick six glossy photos signed by 6 defensive backs who Caleb just gave an A+ to, and that's thank you to our friends at the one, the only Sports Treasures in North Knoxville. So it's just $9.98 a month. You get, and 98 because 1998. You get increased recruiting coverage. You also get more interaction with me and Caleb and an opportunity to win our grand prize, which we're about to hit 6,000 subscribers. I set the goal high, so it's Rick Terry's grade 8 Garmin Chase. And there we go. So when we hit 8,000 subscribers, if you're a free member or paid member of Hooker's Corner, you get an opportunity to win a Garmin worth over $1,000. So that is awesome. Hit like and subscribe. Go ahead and join Hooker's Corner. Caleb, if you can put that in the message board, I would greatly appreciate it. Jacob, what did you think of the onside kick at the time it was executed?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat right now. I love what Lance said, and I agree. You know, I mean, I think that special teams is such a crazy world of things. You know, I mean, there's so many possibilities, so many turnouts, so many different results of every play. You know, I mean, and special teams really determines the outcome of many games. And we got a great guy that coaches our special teams, and I'm laughing because he's crazy, man. Eckler is crazy, and you know he takes what he gets, and he truly coaches his heart out, man. He gives everything he can, and Hype is the same way. And so, you know, I think it's weird because I was sitting there looking at their kickoff return, and you know we kicked the ball to them quite a bit, right? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know, their way they're playing with their frontline guys, right? Usually this style of kickoff return, right, that they're still doing in college, no longer in the NFL. This style of kickoff return, you have your frontline guys, you got the backline guys, and you got your returners. And those frontline guys are in charge of clearing the kick, right, making sure that the kick is actually kicked deep first, right, seeing the direction, seeing the depth, and then dropping back and going and find that man to block. When a team like Kent State is playing off of that restraining line, right, which is 10 yards away from the ball, you a lot of times see these opportunities to steal one, right? And usually you don't need to steal one in a game like this. And that's why everybody's upset. That's why everybody's so frustrated, is because, you know, there's no need to go steal an extra possession and put up another touchdown, right? We're already up, I think, 30 points or something, 31 points or something at that time. And, you know, it just seemed like a little bit overkill. It seemed like bad sportsmanship. But I think, like I said in the chat, he had said earlier, you know, I think it was nothing more than practice, and to put that on film for Oklahoma to worry about. And I think that's fair. Like, that's a fair assumption. You know what I mean? I think you put that on film and you show Oklahoma, like, hey, you better respect this ability, right? We have a kicker that can make this kick. We have guys that can go make plays on this ball. And so, yeah, you show Oklahoma that, you know, hey, respect our kickoff game, respect the fact that, yeah, we will kick it deep many times. And if you don't respect it, we will dribble it and try to steal possession. I don't know. For me, I think I would hold it. You know, I guess the way I think about the game, I would wait, right? And I would just say, let's not show anything. Let's just keep it in our back pocket. And if a team like Oklahoma wants to mess around and wants to give us that opportunity, now we'll spring the surprise on them. But yeah, now Oklahoma has to study it. They have to be prepared for it. I guarantee you the first kickoff or every kickoff in that next game, they're going to be sitting there staring at the ball, making sure they're not doing that onsides. And Whatever. If that sets up good coverage for us, then that's great.
How much of this, Jacob, could be an audible by the kicker in the moment because he sees them going back every time? And maybe, I don't know, I know you probably worked with Coach Eckler and special teams a little bit. Are they almost coached to say, hey, if they show this formation, you react to it and you go ahead and take the risk?
And that's a big part of it too, man, is, in my time, the kicker has been an experienced guy and a guy that all the coaches trust. And I think Turbeville's the same way. I think Turb's been there for a few years now. And I think, once he kind of gets the gist of everything, he can be trusted to make calls like that. And again, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look and see if they gave like a signal or something. And obviously that's going to be something on film you have to look for. But I don't know if it's a signal from coach. I don't know if it's a signal from one of the players or whatever. But, I couldn't tell you whether that was just an audible, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, or if that was something that they planned on.
Well, and I mentioned this last week. There was, and it seems strange to give a kicker or a punter an audible, but there was a situation in which Britton Colquitt threw an interception in the swamp as he had the audible privilege, whatever choice to throw against a certain formation. It didn't work out, but nevertheless, that is a thing. So that's interesting. Now, let me ask you this, because I'm sure you played special teams coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if Oklahoma sees that and says, holy bleep, we've got to have everybody on the line or more people on the line, does that increase your opportunity for a big return? In other words, was Kent State dropping people for some reason that I have no understanding of?
So this is more of like I don't even really know how to explain it. You don't need more people on line of scrimmage to defend against this onside kick. For an onside kick to truly work, right, you just need space. You need space, or you need someone to drop the ball. Like, even when you have a true, like, not surprise onsides, right? They have usually 10. They have 10 guys within 10 yards of the ball. And even sometimes still, that onside kick gets recovered by the kicking team, right? So it's not necessarily a matter of how many people you have on the line of scrimmage. I don't think to defend against this surprise onsides, you put more people on your line of scrimmage. I think you just raise the awareness. I think you just say, like, hey, let's watch the ball off the tee. Like, let's make sure. Because, I mean, there's only so many places he can kick it, right? And it's not like he's throwing the ball, right? These guys are good with their feet, right? But, if he kicks it, you'll have time to get to the ball. And the kicking team can't even touch the ball until it goes 10 yards anyway. So as long as you're covering all those bases, I think, that's the way I would assume that you would defend it. I don't think you have to put everybody on the front line. Therefore, you'd kind of be out of position to actually protect your returner at a certain point if you did that. But we'll see how they play it. I think more of just awareness and more of just being locked into the details of watching that ball kicked and making sure that it's going deep rather than getting dribbled right in front of you.
Yeah, Jacob, given what we found out over the weekend, this is why I don't think it was like some Bush League attempt to run up the score by Josh Heupel over an inferior opponent. We found out that he offered to Kent State will shorten the game in the second half, and Kent State turned it down. Right. How much of this onside kick would you say was he was trying to run up the score early, though, so he could try to shorten the game in the second half because he just wanted to get out of there and focus on Oklahoma?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's that deep. I don't know if it's that, if it's that in depth, I guess. I don't know if you think about it like that. It really could have just been like, hey, they're giving it to us. Like, let's just go ahead and try it. At least practice it and maybe, get a rep at it so we can use it later on in the season if we need to. Like, I'm not sure about how much it actually involved the logistics of the game.
Great stuff, Jacob. Tell us about Peak IV Hydration, sir, and I will go ahead and put that link in the chat. You can order online, or you can visit their location in Sevierville or South Knoxville.
Yeah, link in the chat. You guys see it. Go check them out, man. Whether it's just getting their patches, you can wear them all throughout the day, and like Dave said earlier, man, keep you hydrated, keep you energized, all those things. I've used the patches when I've been out on the golf course. That's one of the places I like to put them on. I just put them on my side. They stay on the whole day. You can get sweaty. They won't peel off. But but they do a really good job of trying to just keep you right, man. Just being conscious about your health is a really big thing for me and for so many people out there, I'm sure. So yeah, take the time, look at the link. If you get something great, next time get something great. Doesn't matter, but happy to have them on the show with us.
Yeah, and they've got supplement patches too that will help you with vitamin supplements. So, Jacob, we appreciate your time as always. Thanks for being a part of the program, and we will talk to you, I guess, on Monday. But you'll probably hear from me before then.
I'm sure I will. You won't stop calling me, man. I'm just kidding. Okay. See y'all.
Have a blessed day, sir. We appreciate that. Jacob Warren. In 2 minutes, we are going to be joined by John Hoover. John, I can see you in the chat. I apologize that I'm running late, but I can't wait to talk to you. I've been looking forward to this. What really happened with Josh Heupel and the divorce between him and Oklahoma? 2 minutes. John Hoover will join us, who covers the Oklahoma Sooners for Sports Illustrated. Take care.
And the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 24 Ford Maverick Hybrid, $25,515. 23 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,995. 24 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $59,757. Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Here we go with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. We're joined by a very special guest, and he does a lot of work covering Oklahoma. Does a fantastic job, has his own YouTube channel, writes for the Oklahoma Sports Illustrated site. John Hoover joins us now. John, how are you, sir?
Doing well, Dave. How's everybody there?
Fantastic. Tell us where all we can follow your work before we dig into some things here.
Yeah, Twitter is the easiest place to find everything we do. My handle's easy, John E. Hoover. If you want to check out the site directly, it's Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com.
Perfect. Caleb, go right ahead, sir. I want to remind you that portions of the program are brought to you by our good friends at Quality Tire Pros. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work is covered by Nationwide Warranty. Stop by and tell Bo that Off the Hook Sports said hello. QualityTirePros.com. Caleb?
So, John, I wanted you on today because I wanted you to tell us this story of Josh Heupel's past at Oklahoma. Because when he was hired at Tennessee a few years ago, I did a deep dive into his whole track record and things like that. And I came across your Tulsa World article that basically dove into how after playing Texas A&M, Bob Stoops tried to force that offense on Josh Heupel and wanted Trevor Knight to be Johnny Manziel. And it didn't work out. Can you give a full kind of timeline, and I'll give you the floor on just what happened from the beginning to end on that and how he got fired?
Yeah, so Josh, obviously, national championship quarterback at Oklahoma, came with Mike Leach, not with Mike Leach, but Mike Leach went out and found him at Snow Junior College, came in and changed the culture at Oklahoma from, decades of wishbone and power running and option football. Josh came in as a left-hander who wanted to throw for 4,000 yards every year. And people around here had never heard of that before, right? That was strange football. That was something that BYU did and the San Diego Chargers did. Can't happen at Oklahoma. Well, they did it. They accomplished it immediately, turned it around in year 2, won the national title. So Josh immediately has favored son status at Oklahoma. Well, as his coaching career begins to evolve, he goes to work coaching tight ends for Mike Stoops out in Arizona, comes back to coach Oklahoma, and he's coaching quarterbacks. And pretty soon he's elevated to offensive coordinator. And he's doing good. If you look at his offenses are putting up big numbers. Landry Jones, I think, 3rd in the NCAA history with total passing yards or something like that. It's an absurd figure that Landry Jones put up in 4 years as the starter. Well, Josh, in that 2012 Cotton Bowl against Texas A&M and Johnny Manziel, that was Johnny football. Okay, that was the breakout. That was his Heisman year. He had a fantastic game against OU. And in 2013 and 2014, you saw Josh's recruiting of quarterbacks kind of go down a little bit. I think their passing numbers were 83rd in the country and 90th in the country in passing offense. And at some point, after the 2012 season, Bob Stoops said, hey, football is moving this way. Football is taking off and going in this Johnny football direction. Can you get us a quarterback that looks like that, right? And that's a tough call. He was, of course, unable to do that, but essentially he was trying to install an offense under Bob's orders. He was trying to install that read option Johnny football offense that he'd never come up in. He didn't have any DNA in that. He was an air raid guy. He was a Mike Leach guy. And, wouldn't you know it, he's been tasked with installing an offense that he doesn't really know much about. He doesn't have the roots there. So he tried. He did his best. Like I said, they finished down in the NCAA ratings a couple of years. They lost quite a few games in those couple of years. And Bob hated it. It killed him to do it. But he knew that the only way to move the program forward was to, your offensive coordinator, coach, is terrible. You're going to have to fire him, right? That's what everybody says. So he kind of relented and said, you know what? That's probably what I need to do. I got to fire Josh Heupel, as much as it kills me to do it. And, Josh's brother-in-law was the president of the university's son. His sister was married to the president's son. So he had the status of kind of untouchable, but Bob moved on and cut ties. And Bob had his college roommate coaching offensive line at the time, and that was a disaster. So he fired him, fired his co-offensive coordinator, Jay Norvell, who he also played with at Iowa. So it was kind of a fresh start for Bob in his career. After that loss to Clemson in the Russell Athletic Bowl, Bob seriously considered retirement. The president talked him out of it. Clean house, remake your staff, go get what you need to get. And what he needed to get turned out to be Lincoln Riley. Ironically, Lincoln Riley comes in and installs the air raid offense, basically, that Josh Heupel wanted to run. So it came full circle really fast. And more ironically, they bring in Baker Mayfield as a walk-on from Texas Tech. Baker Mayfield, Texas Tech, Cliff Kingsbury guy, air raid guy. I mean, Josh Heupel must have really, at that point in his career, felt very, very slighted by his alma mater.
Wow, that's brutal. Caleb?
So, what do you think Heupel's matter about, on a personal level about this? The fact that he was fired for not being able to run an offense that Bob Stoops forced on him and then just replaced him with an offensive coordinator who ran the offense he wanted to run anyway? Or the fact that Bob Stoops didn't fire his brother as defensive coordinator at the time when the defense, it seemed like, was a major issue too in 2014 at Oklahoma?
It's probably the offense thing. That coach, that was my offense. That's what I ran. What he's running is what I ran as a quarterback and as an offensive coordinator. Why are you bringing him in to run my offense, basically? So, yeah, probably that. But I'll tell you this, just knowing Josh a little bit like I do over the years, when you say mad, he's not mad. He has let it go. It is water under the bridge. He's not holding a grudge about that. He was at the Hall of Fame ceremony a couple of years ago when Bob Stoops went in. He was at the Hall of Fame ceremony, or maybe not the ceremony, but he was, at the event when Josh was on the ballot and stuff like that. And I've seen them hanging out together, after party type stuff. It's interesting. They're friends. They remain friends. I think there will always be that little divide that, how much does he really love me? He fired me kind of thing. But at the same time, I think Josh is his own man now. You can see the maturity in his the way he's developed the program first at UCF and then at Tennessee. He developed it in his image, and they've been successful. And he's like, you know what? I've proven myself. My way works. That's ancient history. I'm not going to worry about that.
That's interesting that you say that, because I thought he was probably going, and he'll have his press conference this afternoon. I can go ahead and tell you what he's going to say. Yeah. It's just another game. And I don't think about it. Yeah, I'm not talking about that. That's what he'll do.
Love my time at Oklahoma. Cherish the memories I had there. Made great friends. But we're moving on.
Yeah, exactly. But you believe he really believes that in his heart, or is that just the right thing to say in that position?
Yeah, I think maybe a little bit of both. I think it's okay to say down the middle on that one. It's a little bit of both. He's not gonna. He's got his own internal fires. Josh does. Being the son of a coach, he's had his own motivations over the years. Nobody wanted me coming out of high school. Nobody wanted me coming out of junior college. Mike Leach was the only one that really wanted me. He doesn't wear that stuff on his sleeve. He doesn't beat his chest about, everybody thought I was an underdog and nobody thought I could do it. He just doesn't do that. And to his credit, Josh has always remained above the fray in that arena.
John, it's funny you say that, because Dave and I both get this vibe, and you would know it way better than we do, because we've covered Josh Heupel for 4 years and you covered him for however many years he was an assistant at Oklahoma, plus his 2 years as a player there. Does it seem like, even though he stays very calm and collected above the fray, that he's got a little bit of Michael Jordan Last Dance in him? He takes things personally, and he's a little bit cocky, and he wants to stick it to people.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. I think he internalizes that stuff. He doesn't wear it on his sleeve. He doesn't externalize it and go around, tooting his own horn or saying nobody believed in us, everybody counted us out. He might bring that up once in a while, but I don't think he flies that flag, so to speak. Versus he's really straightforward. Listen, the way we go, he's done it before as a quarterback. The way we go 13-0 is to go 1-0 each week. It's as boring as hell for us. And we want to talk to Bob Stoops this week, and we want to talk to Josh Heupel, and we want them to tell us stories about Josh being the quarterback and Brent being the co-defensive coordinator and them getting after each other in practice. We want to hear that colorful stuff. Everybody's kind of just detached themselves from that process this week. It's kind of ticks me off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean,
it is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. I wish we had. This is a great week to expose all that, and not in a bad way, but just to go back and relive it and to retell those stories. Nobody wants to pull the scab off the wound and say, "Ooh, Josh Heupel, he hates Oklahoma." That's not it. We want those stories about him versus Venables and Stoops jumping in there and saying, "Hey, stop, tearing up our defense so bad." Stuff like that early on in their careers was told fairly frequently, but now that now that everybody's got, head coach and millions of dollars and status of the program and all that, everybody's kind of backing away from that stuff.
Right. And for those that don't know, Bob Stoops sent out a tweet that I'm not going to comment or do any interviews. This morning, I believe, is when it came out about
last night.
Oh, last night. Okay. Yeah. About the Tennessee Oklahoma game, which was weak. But anyway,
game day's in town. Holly Rowe wants to sit down with all those guys, right? And no, they're not having it.
No, that's not a fan of that. But with where Oklahoma is now and Brent Venables, he was the defensive coordinator for a long time for a reason. I'm not completely sure what that reason was. He had success last year, not so much beginning of the year. Injuries this year. Where is this program in terms of the way fans, who are obviously biased, view it? Is the jury still out on Venables? Are they all in on Venables?
I tell you, I'm getting a vibe. So my YouTube channel's kind of growing a little bit, and
tell us about that, by the way.
What's that?
Tell us about the YouTube channel. How do we?
Oh yeah, John Hoover Media is where you find all the OU interviews and all the assessments and evaluations and observations that we do as a staff at Sooners on SI. John Hoover Media, but there's a community on YouTube that is more vocal than any I've ever encountered on probably just this side of Facebook. Okay, and what I mean by that is they get on there, fans get on there, and they start popping off about. They hate the head coach and they hate the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback is a 5-star, but he's a bum. And I've never seen anything like it. Like, I'm not sure what you want from this team as a fan base when your 4 best receivers who coming back from last year are all injured, all 4 of them. You're 0 for 4 on bringing back wide receivers who can play football from last year. It's unbelievable. You've got 3 different games, right? So you've got 3 different combinations, completely different combinations. You've got one guy who started at one position on the offensive line all 3 games. Everybody else is mixing, matching, and going back and forth. What do you want from your offense? Your offensive coordinator, basically the head coach said, listen, first game for sure, next game probably, and even the third game, we're going to be perfectly vanilla. Don't call anything. And so everybody's coming down on the offensive coordinator. So the OC, Seth Luttrell, former Heupel fullback, right, on the national title team, he's got no receivers. He's got a mix and match offensive line. He's been told not to call anything because they want a vanilla game plan. They don't want to show Tennessee anything, right? And everybody's like, fire the offensive coordinator. It's that way at Oklahoma every year that the offense doesn't score 50 points and 500 yards a game.
Let me just ask you this. If you polled Oklahoma football fans and they said you could trade Brent Venables for Josh Heupel right now,
woo,
what would the percentage be?
I think there would be some that would be strongly in favor of it, but I think the large percentage would say, nah, we'll keep Venables. Large percentage, 80%, 85% would say we'll keep Venables.
Stuff. Anything else, Caleb?
Yeah. So one last question for you on this, John. I know
That's a great question, by the way. Wow.
Yeah.
I know a lot of OU fans feel like Josh Heupel should have won the Heisman in 2000. I'm asking you about more of a Heupel slights that he perceives. Heupel didn't win the Heisman, and then he saw Lincoln Riley get 3 quarterbacks that he won the Heisman with when he was coaching Oklahoma. How much do you think Heupel might work a little extra to try to make a Nico Iamaleava Heisman winner just so he can get that one because he thinks he's been slighted too many times?
That's a good question. I think that's a fair question. There will be times in games, I believe, when Nico has the opportunity to come out, right, and not throw for 3. He's at 295 with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they're up 48-10. Does Josh, in the back of his mind, does Josh say, let's bring him back? He's at 295 right now. I can see it on the scoreboard, right? The stats are right there in front of me that he's at 295. Maybe I'll just leave him in for one more series. Maybe we'll just try to get that quick completion and then bring him out. I could see where that would come into play, but I don't think just on the daily that Josh is sitting around thinking, I got to get a Heisman Trophy winner. Nico's my best chance to get a Heisman Trophy winner. I do think that he understands what it means to be a Heisman winner because he was snubbed, and it's not like his career went sideways because of it. But when he didn't get it, there's this famous quote, famous scene. I'm sure you guys are aware of it, of Winky being a captain on one side and Heupel being a captain on the other side at the Orange Bowl in 2001. And Torrance Marshall, the OU co-captain linebacker, saying, we're getting our trophy back for our boy tonight. The Oklahoma linebacker said that to Chris Winky at his face. So Josh has
awesome.
Yeah, we're getting that Heisman back. We're getting that trophy back for our boy tonight. It was amazing. And of course they did, in a manner of speaking. Winky, I think, got to keep the Heisman Trophy, but OU won the national title. But that's something that Josh was there, and Josh witnessed that. And I'm sure if you think about it, that was a moment in time. And now, how many times did his teammates tell him over the years, or in the locker room that year, or whatever it was, man, you got robbed of that Heisman. We're going to get it back for you. He's probably has it built in innately that. The Heisman is a big deal, and it can change lives and certainly change your fortune. Are you guys coming to the game? If you come to the game, you have to go to Heisman Park outside the stadium, east side of the stadium, right across the street, Heisman Park. There's 7 gigantic, they call them heroic size statues. They're about 8 feet tall of their Heisman Trophy winners. It is striking. And then when you look at that, when you watch that, or you go back and you take your pictures and you're looking at all those Heisman winners, on the north side of the stadium, northeast corner, back towards the tailgating and the parking lots, there's the Selman Brothers statue. So the Selman Brothers, Leroy, Dewey, and Lucius Selman, have their own statue in their own corner of the community out there, whereas it's just outside Heisman Park. It is so cool. It's one of the great. I've been all over the country covering college football. It's one of the great scenes that I've ever seen. Is people standing out there taking pictures of those Heisman Trophy winners.
John, I want to ask you another question. It's kind of similar to Caleb's, but let's say there's 5 minutes left. Tennessee's up 17 points, game's in hand. Tennessee has the ball in the middle of the field. Josh Heupel like to take a shot. Would he like to rub Oklahoma's nose in it?
I don't think so.
I do.
I think, honestly, he that's a little overt for my way of thinking, for Josh to approach it like that. I think he would do it with 8 minutes to go in the third quarter, 4 minutes to go in the third quarter. You know what I mean? He would do it in the flow of the game. Like, let's light these dudes up. Let's put the points on the scoreboard. Let's show them what life is like in the Southeastern Conference. Oh yeah, and let's get them back for firing me a couple of years ago. That kind of thing. Yeah, I don't think he would do it late in the fourth quarter. That would be a little bit too obvious that he's trying to rub it in. I don't. And when you say rub it in, Josh is not a guy that's going to rub it in. He's going to rub it in over the course of the game.
Gotcha. Well, that Missouri game, I go back to 2022. There was a late throw that's pretty questionable, but nevertheless, Tennessee. I mean, Josh Heupel fits right in because Johnny Majors and Peyton Manning, in my opinion, both should have won the Heisman, and they both finished second. We actually interviewed Peyton Manning about that, and he said,
that is total bullshit.
No, he didn't.
I thought that was a quote from me. That was my first year to vote as a Heisman voter, and I voted for Peyton, and I'm like, what? Charles Woodson, what? Come on.
John, let me ask you a quick question real quick, just Oklahoma related, because y'all have had or not y'all, but Oklahoma, the people, the fan base you cover has had a bad break because they had all these injuries, and it seemed like the SEC just decided to sabotage them their first year in the league. Was that about, do you think it was about sabotaging Oklahoma or propping up Texas to give them such a much more difficult schedule?
Boy,
Oklahoma.
I can't.
Schedule's unbelievable.
It is. It's a tough schedule, and I just can't go there. I can't project myself into Greg Sankey's executive offices and the schedule makers and adhere to the fact that, hey, let's make it tough for Oklahoma or let's make it easy for Texas. I really, truly, honestly, and maybe I'm naive. I am naive. Let's admit it. I'm naive. I think that's just the way the schedule shook out. I think that's just the way these teams came in this year, and those teams are rotating next year. I don't think there's anything to it. Maybe I'm not SEC ready. Maybe I don't have the.
Given the way you saw Texas stronger in the Big 12 for so many years,
yeah. I just can't. I'm a conspiracy theory nut. I love them. I don't believe in them most times, but I love exploring them. So I'd be willing to listen to what you have to say on it. But just in terms of did it happen, I think it's totally coincident. I think it's a raw deal. I think it's unfortunate for Oklahoma for the next 2 years. But maybe in 3 years, Texas will get their comeuppance, right? That's what Oklahoma fans are saying. But the fact of the matter is college football cyclical, and the teams that are good now are not going to be good 3 or 4 years from now.
Last thing, John, if you can kind of, you did to some extent address what Oklahoma has going on now, but in general, give us kind of a rundown of this team. And I know it's early in the week, so I hate it when people ask me for predictions. So feel free to say I'm not ready, because I like to do a lot of research. Yeah. But if you do, how do you see this game shaking out? But in particular, what do you think of Oklahoma's strengths and weaknesses right now as a football team?
Yeah. Just to catch Tennessee fans up, Dillon Gabriel was the quarterback for 2 years. He was that kind of stopgap quarterback to fill in Brent Venables' first couple of years. We need somebody that can throw the ball. Let's go out and find somebody. Hey, I've got a history with this kid out in UCF. Jeff Levy brought him in. He did a really good job for 2 years. Had some shortcomings as a quarterback. Dillon Gabriel did, but during that process, they recruited a 5-star. Jackson Arnold, National Gatorade Player of the Year, Jackson Arnold out of Denton, Texas. Dillon had the option last December of returning to Oklahoma, and Jackson was like, Coach, I thought you said I would, that whole thing where a 5-star comes in. And they basically, I'm not going to say they ran Dillon off, but basically almost they ran Dillon off. They allowed him to go to Oregon, where he's going to go participate in a huge offense this year, and national title contender and Heisman Trophy contender. And he's closer to his homeland of Hawaii. His family doesn't have to fly as far. So that all worked out for Dillon. But he could have absolutely returned and started for Oklahoma this year. I should say he could have returned and would have competed with Jackson Arnold. So that's a little bit of where the program is. They've got some 4-star and 5-star quarterbacks committed and waiting in the wings. And Brent Venables has really, really upped the ante on landing defensive guys. He's gotten a defensive 5-star, which, again, I know it just means more. It's the SEC, but we're talking Oklahoma landing defensive 5-stars out of high school. They've gotten 3 in the past 2 recruiting classes, which it's been a generation, guys, since that has happened at Oklahoma. So Brent has refocused his commitment and his coaching staff refocused a commitment to defense. And that has been huge. As you've seen this year, the defense is carrying this team. And meanwhile, you've got the 5-star quarterback. He's a sophomore now. He played a little bit last year as a true freshman behind Dillon Gabriel. You've got the offense kind of limping along, trying to find its identity behind this quarterback and a rebuilt offensive line and the injured wide receiver core. He's not entirely to blame for this, but that's the identity of the Oklahoma team right now. Is Brent Venables has rebuilt the defense, and he chased off a Heisman contender at quarterback, right? That's what the perception is. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's the perception. And so that's where this team starts its membership in the Southeastern Conference.
John, great stuff. You're the best away team or opponent team guest we've had on this year. But in all fairness, if you look at who Tennessee's played, there hasn't been a lot of big market competition.
I got you.
No, but seriously, we could keep you on like all day. This is fascinating stuff. So I appreciate it. Tell us again where Tennessee fans can follow your work, because they want to know about Oklahoma, especially this week.
Yeah, we put a lot of stuff out at Oklahoma Sooners on SI.com, 8-10 stories a day. Plenty of videos, all the player videos. And if you can't find it on that website, just go to my YouTube channel, John Hoover Media, to find all the player interviews, coach interviews, analysis, breakdowns, and everything. Pre-game, post-game, whole stuff.
Great stuff, John. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you guys.
We usually keep people on for like 10 or 12 minutes. I feel so bad we kept him on so long, but how good was that?
I told Dave, guys, I was typing to Dave in a DM, and I'm like, Dave, I could talk all day on this. Like, and we could, the show could have gone off the rails because we could have just kept talking. It was so good.
Yeah, Caleb was blowing me up yesterday. Can you get John Hoover? Can you get? And I was like, yeah, we'll get him, man. Way to go, Caleb. Thank you very much, John. That was a whole lot of fun and good call by you, Caleb. This day in Tennessee sports history is coming up next. Hang tight. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports.
When the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 24 Ford Maverick Hybrid, 25,515, 23 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,995, 24 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $59,757. Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
He tries very hard. The Dave Hooker Show.
All I know is when we win a game, it's a team win. When we lose a game, it's a team loss.
A presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Unbelievable!
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
I gotta be honest with you. One of my pet peeves that Caleb does is he's looking at his phone sometimes. But here am I doing the same thing. And I know Caleb's doing it because he's working for other stuff for the show. I want to go ahead and tell you what I was doing. I was going ahead and texting Josh Pate so that he will join us on Wednesday, it looks like. So if you don't mind me doing that, he'll join us on Wednesday. And then we're set to be joined by Cole Kubelik as well of ESPN. So I hope you enjoy the guest. And we love bringing them on. That information on Josh Heupel is unbelievable. Just so good. And let's put in perspective for just a second what you ask when you say make the next Johnny Manziel. Okay, because I'm including Cam Newton in this, Caleb. When I ask guys that have covered the SEC, who's the best playmaker with the least, they all say 2 people. And do you want to guess who they are? I'm talking about guys that are older than me. They all say 2 people. Johnny Manziel's one.
Would Bo Jackson be the other one?
Nope, quarterback.
Playmaker, quarterback. I mean, I would say Cam Newton, but I feel like it's somebody that maybe Archie Manning.
Yep.
You know what's funny? If you ever watch the Book of Manning, in 2014, I think it came out, and Skip Bayless of all people tweeted this. He said they showed the whole Manning family, and basically its consensus is Archie Manning was Johnny Football before Johnny Football in the SEC.
No question. No question. If Archie Manning is drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers instead of the New Orleans Saints, they win 4 Super Bowls or more. He was, in my opinion, the best, most unsuccessful professional player in the history of athletics in the United States of America.
Unsuccessful quarterback.
No. Any player, any sport.
I don't know.
As far as
pretty unsuccessful in baseball.
Well, no, but I don't even. Okay, that's a fair one. So those two. I mean, he was phenomenal. He was just absolutely phenomenal. This day in Tennessee sports history is now also Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank, why the Vols will finish in the top 3 in the SEC power rankings. Our stat of the day, too. Speaking up, we'll have our last look brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hine. We'll look back over the weekend. I would imagine that some guy named Arch Manning will be involved with that. So let's go with this day in Tennessee sports history. I want to remind you, Asia Cafe, treat yourself to authentic Asian cuisine, handcrafted from guarded family secrets, 5 locations to choose from. I'm hitting them up tonight. AsiaCafe.org, AsiaCafe.org. And they also have that fantastic Brazilian cocoa energy booster premix instant white coffee. They'll give you sustained energy throughout the day. You can go to AsiaCafe.org. I seriously highly recommend it. Okay. Go there, check it out. If you order a bag or a sample or whatever, you're going to be just absolute. I mean, look at me. I got energy all day. So that's what you need. AsiaCafe.org. All right. This day in Tennessee sports history.
So on this day, 47 years ago today, Johnny Majors secured his first win as head coach of Tennessee football. It was 1977, and Tennessee beat Boston College 24-18. They were kind of in a bit of a debate at that time over who should start a quarterback between Jimmy Streeter and Pat Ryan. Streeter was the better fit for Johnny Majors' offense, but Pat Ryan was the better quarterback overall. It's just what Johnny Majors was running the split view at the time, so they started Jimmy Streeter. But they beat Boston College 24-18. It was a bright spot in a very, very, very bad first season for Johnny Majors, in which Tennessee went 4-7, 1-5 in the SEC, and did something that you don't like to do if you're at Tennessee, which was lose to Kentucky.
A couple of votes. That's a good one. And it's going to lead to our poll question that just the last one wrapped up. What effect will the Heupel Oklahoma pass have on Saturday's game? Huge. Hype is motivated. That's my Donald Trump impression. Nothing. I can't do it like that. Hype is stoic. If you had to choose one of the two, especially after we learned what we learned from John Hoover, what would you say?
Huge. Hype was motivated. He was actually being very friendly to Heupel because he was like, oh, he doesn't take these, it's water under the bridge. And then I straight up asked, but does he take it personal? He's like, yeah, no, he takes it personal. I mean, that's basically kind of what he said. And so I'm even more convinced now. I'm more convinced after speaking with John Hoover that Heupel is absolutely going to take this personal. And I want to run it up.
So you mentioned Johnny Majors. That'll be our new poll question. And I'm just curious because I know the age based off analytics of our viewership, of our viewers. And I know about where it is. So I just put my favorite coaches, Philip Fulmer or Johnny Majors.
Robert Nealon or Doug Dickey?
No, I just wanted those two. So I'm not going to answer because I had a working relationship with Philip Fulmer. And I saw him in a whole different light. Now, I was going to be the host of the Johnny Majors show, but somebody couldn't sell the advertising for it. We did a pilot. And Johnny Majors called me. I remember one time. You wanted an Uncle Dave story?
Ready? Let's go. Let's go, Uncle Dave.
I love Johnny Majors. Okay, loved him. God
I
rest
do
his
too.
soul. And he goes, well, Dave, I called you a couple hours ago. Didn't call me back. It's literally been 2 hours. And I called him back. He goes, well, I was wondering if you could maybe sell the Johnny Majors show. And, I'm full-time Sentinel doing a radio show. I'm like, I don't have any time to do that. And he goes, well, sounds like we've got a, what do you call it? Sounds like we got a hat without a cowboy trying to sell it.
That sounds like something he would say.
Think about that. A hat without a cowboy. In other words, somebody that's wearing the hat and saying, I can do all this, but you're not really a cowboy. I thought was absolutely tremendous.
That is such a Johnny Majors thing. I can just hear him doing that too, by the way.
I mean, we're going here. We've got all the television stations lined up. And
by the way, I have to correct the record on something. I see a post. Someone said that Archie played before segregation ended, so Peyton or Eli would have looked like Lamar. Guys, Archie played after segregation in the SEC. He played after segregation ended in the SEC, but before Ole Miss integrated. So Archie was surrounded by all white people, and he was playing against integrated schools and doing what he was doing. That's pretty darn impressive.
Yeah. And Archie, too, you just watch highlights. And, of course, we're talking about compared to his own. I mean, we're not saying he would step in and play right away. It's time for bank on it. Tennessee is one of the top 3 teams in the SEC. You can bank on it, brought to you by Commercial Bank. So here is my argument, Caleb. They have to be in the top 3 after seeing Georgia struggle against Kentucky and Alabama now surging. I could make a strong argument that they need to be in the top 2 because my list of contenders that will get each and every week for a national championship will be fluid. And I like what Alabama did. I like the fact that they got healthy on the offensive line. And maybe Georgia's still Georgia. They play down to their opponent, but bank on it. I will actually say this, that Tennessee should be in the top 2. Caleb, defend your rankings after we hear from Commercial Bank.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
All right, Caleb. So give me your rankings. Are we going to go all the way through before we get to Tennessee, or where are we starting with this?
Yeah, we're going to go all the way through, and I will say for you whether or not I agree with Dave, and you'll notice it once I get to Tennessee, whether or not I agree with him.
Okay, well, that's what they call a tease in the biz, but if they're not in the top 2, I'm going to be highly disappointed. All right, go.
All right, so these are power rankings, and remember, these are based on how you're playing right now and what would Vegas favor based on what you're doing right now. So, number 16, I believed in them. I'm still high on them long term, but they let me down over the weekend. Mississippi State is number 16. Losing to Toledo like that is just ugly, and Jeff Levy's got some problems.
Rebuilding program. I mean, yeah, I expected some of this. That doesn't define him as a coach at all. Next.
Not at all. Number 15, reality hit with Vanderbilt. I did hit with the over on my bet over the weekend with them, but I thought they would win, and they lost to Georgia State on the road. A Jeremy Pruitt type of loss because he also lost to Georgia State. So Vanderbilt's back down to number 15.
Yep, he did. All right, keep going.
Number 14 is Florida. They are awful. They are terrible. Some people may say Vanderbilt should be ahead of Florida because they beat Virginia Tech, but Dave, come on. If Florida and Vanderbilt played on a neutral field, you'd still probably favor Florida. Vegas would give Florida the edge on the line.
Agreed.
13, down at number 13 is Auburn. That's right. Auburn is number 13. They looked ugly against New Mexico in the first half. They lost to Cal. They're in that bottom tier still with the SEC with those other 4 teams as of right now.
Okay. All right. Who's next?
Number 11 is, despite playing a superb game over the weekend, and they deserve a lot of credit, but I'm not going to overreact to 1 week, is still Kentucky. Yes, they played tough. They still lost 31-6 a week before that. You don't get to jump up. In power rankings, you don't get to jump up because of one good weekend.
Yeah, especially I've seen it so many times. You have an embarrassing Saturday, and then you're super motivated in practice the next week, especially with Georgia coming to town. So, yeah, they played above their heads, and Georgia historically plays down to them. So that doesn't make me think too much about either team because based off their history, they were who they were and have been on Saturday.
No, that's very true. Exactly. Totally agree. By the way, someone pointed this out. Florida at Mississippi State this weekend might be the worst SEC game of all time. But all right, so number 10 is South Carolina. They're up to number 10, having beaten Kentucky and also played LSU very close. I got South Carolina at number 10.
Okay. See if they finish that way. Go ahead.
Number 9, and this is going to be on my takeaways, but for the week, but it's LSU. And I have some serious questions about Brian Kelly. I mean, I think his seat should be starting to get hot to warm up.
In all fairness, you and I, we got to eat some crow. We both thought he would be a massive success there.
We did. I thought all LSU needed was a coach with 2 brain cells to rub together, and they would be Dynasty. And,
at the time, if you made me bet when he was hired that he'll win 2 national titles or get fired in disgrace, I would have bet 2 national titles.
I'd have bet 2 national titles easily. And I would have just said, you got 10 years. What do you think he's going to do? I would have said 2 national titles, just straight up.
I think cultural fit is about the dumbest reason to consider a coach. But I think in this particular situation, there's a really bad cultural fit. And when you're hiring a coach, that should be like 80th on your list of criteria. But in this particular case, and the way he came out and tried to talk with that accent and stuff, I think he felt like he wasn't a fit. All right, what do you got next?
Yep. Number 8, I got Texas A&M. Mike Elko had a pretty good win over the weekend. Not a good win, but at least they blew out Florida. So, it was at Florida.
It's my favorite store. I love to pick up some clothes at Belco. Go ahead.
Oh, nice. All right, now we're to the undefeated teams, the 7 undefeated in the SEC. Number 7, the worst of the undefeateds right now is Oklahoma. I don't think there's any question about that, given how they've looked through 2 weeks and how banged up they are.
No, I agree with that, and that's probably going to drop in the coming weeks as they play, I think, 6 straight ranked SEC teams. By the way, the poll question, the best team in the SEC other than Tennessee is Alabama, Georgia, or Texas. Texas running away with it. Who's next, Caleb?
All right, so number 6, now we are in the tiers of the teams that think they should be top 5. Missouri's number 6. I know they just beat Boston College, but they beat Boston College by just a touchdown, and I think all the other teams I'm about to name would be favored over Missouri on a neutral field.
Agreed, and we're going to get to my contender status here momentarily, who I believe are true contenders, but we'll do that when we finish poll. What's next?
All right, number 5. Haven't played anybody, but Ole Miss is just blowing people out of the water. And I'm sorry, the question was, can Lane Kiffin get these guys to play together with all these new transfers? Spoiler alert, he's getting them to play together.
Well, I don't know necessarily that he's done it yet. I mean, I want to see when they get hit by some adversity. But I'll tell you this, Jackson Dart is incredibly, and I think I mentioned this last week, is incredibly accurate. That dude, he's not just throwing to wide open people. I mean, Jackson Dart is a legit, he's in the discussion as a legit number 1 NFL draft pick. I will go ahead and tell you right now, he'll grade out far better than Carson Beck. There's no question in my mind. Unless he's got a health issue or he makes somebody mad in the interviews, he's going to go above Carson Beck in the draft. Period. End of discussion. Go.
I totally agree. And now it's time to fade Dave's bank on it, because as of right now, Tennessee's 4th in my SEC power rankings, and I had to put them there. And you can play any of your little hotkeys if you want.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't even play Peyton? You didn't play Peyton for me?
Well, I'm going to get to it, but so for now,
that's crazy.
Okay.
And it's because, again, I can't hold things against him. I just haven't seen enough, because the teams they've played are bad. I mean, Chattanooga may be the best team they've played, guys, of the 3. I mean, let's
What
be
did
honest.
NC State do over the weekend, by the way?
They had to run away to beat. It was another really, really bad team. I think it was like Louisiana Tech by like 10.
They didn't look great. So I think there's still some unknown out there with Tennessee, but based off my eye test, which is fairly accurate, but probably the worst statistic most people could use, I still think Tennessee is one of the top 3 teams in the SEC. All right, who's next, Caleb?
Well, and this is who would Vegas favor on a neutral field. So number 3, I've still got Georgia. They fell from number 1 to number 3. But guys, I know they struggle with Kentucky, but be honest with yourselves. Just be honest. You saw Georgia do this 2 years ago where they would struggle with opponents they were playing down to on a week-to-week basis. And you still knew they were the best team in the SEC the whole time.
Okay, I can roll with that. Alabama falling. I'm sorry. So who's next? Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, Georgia fell to number 3. I have falling to number 2 right now is Texas for no other reason than Quinn Ewers got hurt. If not, they'd be number 1. But, you know, even though I think Arch Manning is better, we're going to get to that in a second. But I think for right now, Texas is falling to number 2 just because there could be a quarterback question there, but they're still they look pretty darn good so far.
Yeah, and I think that Texas is. I think we'll get into the Arch Manning debate here in a second, but I think Texas is probably the best team right now in the SEC, and I think that still sounds weird for me to say. And I think that they will probably they would be favored over any team in a neutral site. But you think this team would be favored?
I think as of right now, based on what they did to Wisconsin, Alabama, you got to say is number 1. I'm eating some crow. I still say that Jalen Milroe is not a fit for this offense, but you know what? Credit to Kalen DeBoer. He did, and this actually makes me really think Alabama's going to keep rolling with Kalen DeBoer. He has tweaked everything about his system to fit Jalen Milroe. Have you noticed that? And it reminds me of when Urban Meyer went to Florida and Chris Leak was not a fit for the spread offense. And whatever you think of Urban Meyer, he and Dan Mullen, they totally changed up how they ran their spread so it could fit what Chris Leak was trying to do, what Chris Leak's skill set was. And that's what Caleb DeBoer is doing with Jalen Milroe right now.
Best team in the SEC on our poll question. Texas is number 1. Georgia is number 2. Alabama is number 3, but Texas winning in a landslide. That brought to you by Work Trucks. If you don't mind pulling that up, Caleb, because you got to take a look at these trucks. They are absolutely phenomenal. And when it comes to Work Trucks, I got to tell you this, the perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. A Work Trucks, they're all about trucks that are actually available. They got them now. Okay, so if you're a contractor, Work Trucks with an X saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app had work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you needed a Work Trucks, and that's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks. Work Trucks carries the trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and downtown Birmingham for the entire inventory. Go online to worktrucksllc.com. That's worktrucksllc.com. Why risk chancing your future and business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Worktrucksllc.com. Work Trucks will also work to make sure you have the perfect work vehicle that you have to have. They'll even find a perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. So when we look at schedule, I think that is a factor, and you have to factor that in. But what offsets that to me, to some extent, because I want to wrap up this discussion about why I think Tennessee should be higher rated than you in your power rankings, is I think the depth of the defensive line in particular is unique. And I think we can judge that even against an okay opponent like North Carolina State. If you remember, those guys may have been, well, they were outmatched physically, but they had a ton of starts. So it's not like they were blowing them up with scheme. They were blowing them up just because they were better football players. So, Caleb, that's why I think with my eyeballs seeing Nico as well, that I believe they should be in the top 3 or 2.
Tennessee?
Yes, that would be my argument.
I mean, I can't debate you on it. Look, my 4 through 1 right now is totally interchangeable. My only contention is people radically dropping Georgia because they struggle with Kentucky, when everybody who, although your eyeballs tell you that, you know deep down, and everybody in the world knows deep down that Georgia struggling with Kentucky is much ado about nothing. And so I understand if you want to drop from 1 to 3, 1 to 4, but to say that all of a sudden you think anybody thinks Tennessee would be favored over Georgia on a neutral field, that just wouldn't happen, guys. If Tennessee was playing Georgia right now on a neutral field, everybody would favor Georgia in Vegas.
Okay. All right. Do we have our stat of the day ready to go? As I want to get to that and remind everyone once again about Rick Terry's Great 8 Garmin Challenge, and it's brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Now, here is an opportunity to check out Rick Terry's website. You can just click on that QR code and see those fire opals. Very affordable game day jewelry you'll look fantastic in. And then once we hit 8,000 subscribers, if you are a member of Hooker's Corner, which gives you increased recruiting coverage, then we'll take care of you. You can be a free member for Rick Terry's Great 8 Garmin Challenge, a paid member, and you can win our weekly prizes and also our monthly prize. All you have to do is be subscribed to the channel, and for, again, the prizes from Sports Treasures, you have to be a paid member, but you can be a free member to win that Garmin watch when we hit 8,000 subscribers, and we'll be at 6 by the end of the week. So we are off and running. Time for the last look, and that's brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn.
To visit cctis.com. The information you need is easy to access, and setting an appointment is as simple as clicking the tab. Doctors Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn, and Eye Care Optical at cctis.com. Simply the best.
All right. Last look is week 3.
Do you want this? Don't you want the stat of the day before the last look?
Yeah, let's do the stat of the day.
All right. So I'm just going to go for the records, but I'm going to tie it into something. On Saturday, Tennessee surpassed its school record for points in a quarter when they scored 37. They also surpassed their record for points scored at Neyland Stadium, which when they scored 71. They did that in one game. Ironically, the record for both of those also happened in the same season, just not in the same game, but it was back in 2000 when they scored 70 against Louisiana Monroe and 35 in the first quarter against Arkansas. That stat alone is ironic, but here's one last thing I'm going to bring up to you guys. The last time when Tennessee held those records, that 70 in the first quarter, or that 70 in a game and 35 in the first quarter, that also just happened to be the year that Josh Heupel won a national championship. Now, I did it as a quarterback, but I'm just saying.
That's interesting. Okay, very, very interesting. My stat of the day is actually something that I posted yesterday that, well, was a bit of a mistake by UT Sports Information Department, but I'm not calling them out. Not at all. Okay, so this is pretty wild. The 4-game streak without allowing an offensive touchdown is the longest for the Vols since shutting out 15 straight opponents from November the 5th to 1938 to December the 9th, 1939 under
General Neyland.
Correct. Neyland went 60 consecutive quarters without an offensive touchdown. So Tennessee has now gone 16 consecutive quarters without allowing an offensive touchdown.
Dave wins.
Thank you. Upon further research by UT's Sports Information Department, because it wasn't exactly correct in their game notes. So there was an 18-quarter streak without an offensive touchdown in 1965 to 66. So the current streak of quarters is tied for the third longest because there was also one in 1957. However, to clarify, this is the longest streak of games of not allowing an offensive touchdown since General Neyland did it in 1938 to 1939.
Well, and I want to tie that in. Actually, it's interesting you bring that up because General Neyland didn't just not allow an offensive touchdown. He didn't allow a point during that streak. Okay, he didn't allow a point during that streak. That is the golden age of Tennessee football, 1938 to 1940. They went undefeated every single regular season. They won 3 straight SEC titles. They claimed 2 national titles during that time. But the 1938 season, Dave, not only did they go undefeated, and win their first SEC title, they played their first bowl game. And this is very relevant. It was the Orange Bowl, and it was against Oklahoma, who they beat 17-0 in the Orange Bowl that year. So that's a very intriguing stat too.
That is good stuff. All right, let's get to your recap. What stood out about the season to you, Caleb Calhoun? We mentioned Arch Manning. I'm curious if he'll be on your list. I thought Arch Manning looked fantastic, but that's the University of Texas San Antonio. The deep ball he had was just, the deep pass he had, the guy was bare. Wide open. His speed surprised me, but I'd been told that by scouts. And so I guess that shouldn't surprise me. But let's start with Alabama dominates with a caveat in your takeaways.
Yes, the caveat, and I've told you guys, Kalen DeBoer has done a great job at tinkering the offense with Jalen Milroe to have him run more. He had 196 passing yards, 75 rushing yards, 5 total touchdowns. The one true dual threat quarterback that's living up to that name in college football right now. But I still don't know if Jalen Milroe will be able to use his legs like that once SEC play begins and he faces SEC defenses. Wisconsin's slow.
Okay, and what's next, Caleb?
And we're getting to Arch Manning now. I'm going out on a limb. Arch Manning should start for Texas. I don't care that Quinn Ewers is your guy. You go with the better player. Arch Manning is better than Quinn Ewers. And Dave, I want to say something that you kind of remember that and that you may like, you would appreciate. But the 91 Cowboys, when Aikman got hurt, Steve Eberle came in, and Dallas decided to start him, even though they knew Aikman was their guy, and try to finish the season with Steve Eberle.
But Berline, yeah, and the thing about that was too, but Jimmy Johnson did not believe in Troy Aikman. That's why he drafted Steve Walsh from Miami in the supplemental draft, and it cost them a first round. It cost them like a second round pick, and then being who Jimmy Johnson was, he ended up managing to trade him for a first round pick. And who the hell's Walsh now? Nobody. So he never did anything. But anyway, that's too much Cowboys history. All right, what's next?
Well, and then one more, and 2. Don't forget this: 2012, Jim Harbaugh. Gutsy move, just played for the NFC title, rolling again in 2012, benches Alex Smith for Colin Kaepernick at the beginning in the middle of the year because he knows he's got a better shot at the Super Bowl. Sometimes you got to make that gutsy move, and Arch Manning is the better quarterback, so make that gutsy move. So in the next one, Oregon finally looks like Oregon. Don't really have to add too much into that. It's about time they showed up with Dylan Gabriel. They blew out Oregon State. But my number 4 one, the Florida and Florida State disasters continue. Florida State is 0-3. And guys, Billy Napier's done. Rumors swirled last night, Dave, that boosters are already cobbling up money to go ahead and pay that buyout. They want him out now.
And you don't really get a chance nowadays to resurrect things because you want to get a head start. Really, to some extent, Mike Hamilton started this because Colorado was going to hire Lane Kiffin. So that's why he made the move on Philip Fulmer. So he wanted to be ahead of the curve and in the hiring curve. And I don't think he makes it the year. What else, Caleb?
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, that burned Tennessee in 2017 when they waited so long to fire Butch Jones when they knew they were going to fire him. Number 5, so the Group of 5 race to the CFP continues. Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame last week, but Memphis beating Florida State and Washington State beating Washington this week. Washington State, Memphis, and Northern Illinois lead the Group of 5 race to make the college football playoff. I think right now Memphis is the favorite, but let's be honest, if Notre Dame wins out, Northern Illinois got that spot locked up. If they went out, right, that's the best win.
Yep. And before we get to your final one, I'm going to remind everyone the UPS store Hardin Valley, owned by family of former Vols. They're there to help individuals and small businesses by offering a wide range of products and services, locally owned and operated conveniently at 10629 Hardin Valley Road, 10629 Hardin Valley Road. The link is right below. And what's your final takeaway from the weekend, Caleb?
Well, a couple ones before the Heisman in my top 10. But first, Georgia plays down to Kentucky. We saw that happening. Kansas State and Missouri score quality wins. And Brian Kelly avoids the hot seat barely. We talked about that. You are right. He is not a fit. My Heisman race real quick. I got Cam Ward still leading. Jalen Milrose, number 2. Did you see Travis Hunter had 100 yards receiving and an interception last week? Sorry, you got to put him in there. He's number 3. As a two-way player. Jackson Dart, number 4. Miller Moss, number 5. Nico's not in there yet. He will be my top 10. These are not power rankings. My top 10 is 1 is Georgia, 2 is Texas, 3 is Bama, 4 is USC, 5 is Tennessee, 6 is Missouri, 7 is Kansas State, 8 is Miami, 9 is Penn State, and 10 is Oklahoma State.
And my list of contenders that I'll tell you about every week, I'm adding Alabama to that mix. Based off of a lot of what Caleb said. And I think that there are 6 teams that can win a national championship from what I've seen. And we'll alter that as we go. But I want to say something about Texas. While Arch Manning looked good, Steve Sarkisian's a quarterback coach. He thought Quinn Ewers was better. So I'm going to consider that a negative against Texas until I see Arch Manning play well against a great team, which could be Saturday. And then I'll change my thoughts on that. So, but I still have the same 6, and it's Texas, Southern Cal, Ohio State, Tennessee, Georgia, and I'm adding Alabama to the mix. Those are my 6 that, as of this day, I believe can win a national championship. Would you include anybody else among the contenders?
So you said Texas, USC, Ohio State, Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama.
Yes.
I can't really refute anything you're saying on that. I can't debate you. I think you have a very good point. I know people are going to say, Miami because they blew out Florida. Cam Ward does lead my Heisman race, but blowing out Florida doesn't mean anything anymore. So I'm kind of with you.
If I did best chance to make the college football playoff, I'd probably go with Miami because of that ACC schedule. But to actually win the whole thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And also, Ohio State, as you guys noticed, is not in my top 10 yet because they haven't played anybody. My top 10, as you know, Dave, is not based on who I think the 10 best teams are. It's based on your resume.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, too, about Miami. The other thing that's going to hurt them is, they just play in that Hard Rock Casino, which is like 45 minutes from campus. So the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is going to weigh that when they give out those home games. Miami ain't going to get one.
Well, Miami is going to get the automatic bid because they're going to win the ACC. And so they're going to get a first-round bye.
Well, that's pure junk.
The first-round bye is just go to the top 4 conference champions. This is the flaw. This is why I keep telling you, Dave, you'd rather be the 5 seed than the 1 seed. By any reasonable definition.
Let's discuss that tomorrow. I thank everyone for joining the show. It's always presented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Other attorneys say they'll go to trial. They won't. banksandjones.com. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. Have a great day, everyone. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation